Hello, everyone. So today my research project is over myths of post-traumatic stress disorder. My name is Chloe Gibson, and my supervising professor is Dr. Leslie Kelley from Angelo State University. So what got us thinking about this research project was specifically research from Chisholm and colleagues in 2018. They explored how adolescents perceive mental illness and construct their understanding of mental health. And they found a dual perception of mental illness where participants discussed stereotypes and extreme symptoms like mental illness representing crazy. And they also displayed an insightful and empathic understanding of mental illness and its negative impact on stress, as well as based on their own reality and experiences. And this revealed that young adults were aware of extreme portrayals of mental illness from the media, but still associate mental health with negative stereotypes. So it made us question how much young adults believe in common mental health myths. So the purpose of the study, again, some more research from Bensley and Lilienfeld in 2015, suggested that students sometimes confidently hold psychological misconceptions to be true, and Lilienfeld and colleagues in 2020 have emphasized the harms of these misconceptions among students because it lowers scientific views of psychology. And then Curtis, Kelley, and colleagues, they've investigated misconceptions related to mental illness, suggesting that media and specious sources may be related to a wide range of myths frequently held by students. So we wanted to explore commonly held myths of post-traumatic stress disorder and explore how college students misunderstand or understand the disorder. And so we predicted college students that have experienced or witnessed traumatic events, have been formally diagnosed with PTSD, will more likely accurately report PTSD myths to be false. Whereas those with no experience or formal diagnosis of PTSD and consume more media will most likely not accurately report PTSD myths to be false. So our methods for this research project, so we recruited about 77 students via SONA. It was through convenient sampling of whoever completed the survey. Students got 0.5 SONA credits for completing it. However, one participant's reports were removed from the analysis due to expendable responses. So after students filled out informed consent and agreeing to participate, they completed a demographic survey and then a 25-question questionnaire to report their knowledge of myths surrounding PTSD. So the average age of participants were about 20 years old, 86% were female, 14% male, and then 3% was other. And then we also recorded the number of psychology courses taken. The average was about 2. And then race, 48% white, 38% Hispanic, 4% biracial, 12% Black, 0% multiracial or Arabic or all other, and then 1% Native American. And then after this demographic questionnaire, there were additional exploratory questions regarding the student's experience with trauma or PTSD diagnosis to gain an understanding of how these attributes affect their understanding of myths. So with those 25 myths, those were grouped into 5. They were randomized, and then participants rated those myths on a scale of 1 to 4, 1 being definitely true and then 4 being definitely false. And then we close with a brief thank you message. And so this study will involve the information collected and will evaluate if those personal experiences with trauma or PTSD diagnosis creates a greater correlation in regard to their understanding of PTSD misconceptions. So the statements in the study, again, they were all myths, and majority of these statements were correctly identified as false by students, and majority of results revealed little significant data overall to support the prediction that most college students would inaccurately recognize myths of PTSD to be true. But we did find a few interesting pieces of data that stood out. So we ran a few bivariate correlation analysis, and there was a couple of significant positive correlations. So one being between the number of psychology courses taken and the statement that people can be traumatized by any event. So this basically suggests that the more psychology courses taken, the more students accurately recognize the statement to be false. And then another positive correlation was found among the percentage of film or TV consumed depicting mental health issues, and the statement that children are incapable of developing PTSD. So that suggested that the more media consumed that depicted mental health issues, the more students accurately recognized the statement to be false, which was interesting. In additional correlation results, another positive significant correlation was between percentage of social media consumed that depicted mental health issues and the statement PTSD eventually goes away on its own. So this suggested the more social media consumed that depicted mental health issues, the more likely the statement was accurately identified to be false. And then students who viewed film and TV compared to other peers, and the statement PTSD flashbacks are easily triggered. So this positive correlation suggested that students who spend more time watching film and TV compared to other peers tended to identify the statement as false accurately. And then lastly, we also found that the average time spent on social media compared to peers and the statement people with PTSD tend to exaggerate symptoms suggested again, the more social media consumed compared to other peers, the more accurately students identified the statement to be false. We did also run an ANOVA to find if students' total mean scores of statements differed from the level of education, a student's experience or witness of a traumatic event, a student being formally diagnosed with PTSD, the average amount of film or television consumed hourly each week, and the time spent hourly on social media each week. So no statistically significant difference was found from that ANOVA. And we also ran a post hoc test further for the level of education, the average time spent hourly consuming film or television each week, and the average time spent hourly on social media each week, which there was no significant difference of means found there either. And so this is representing the level of education. There wasn't really much of a difference between the students' score means. Again, here for the amount of film or television consumed here, again, the total mean scores, not much difference here. And then again for time consumed for social media hourly per week, there was, again, not much difference seen between their total score means. And finally, we did an independent t-test to compare mean statement scores with students who had not experienced or witnessed traumatic events, or others who did experience or witness traumatic events. And there was a significant difference revealed in scores for the statement that children are incapable of developing PTSD, with those that had experienced or witnessed a traumatic event, and those that had not experienced or witnessed a traumatic event. And these results suggested that students who had experienced or witnessed a traumatic event or not, they were more likely to accurately recognize the statement to be false. So an additional independent t-test was conducted with students who had not been formally diagnosed with PTSD or had been diagnosed. And there was a difference revealed for the statement, once a person develops PTSD, they have it for the rest of their lives, with those that had been formally diagnosed with PTSD, those that had not. And this revealed that students who had not been formally diagnosed with PTSD were more likely to accurately recognize the statement to be false than those who were formally diagnosed. So overall, majority of results, there was little significance that students with experience of traumatic events or formally diagnosed more accurately reported this of PTSD to be false than those who didn't. So overall, it rejected our initial hypothesis. But bivariate correlations, we did find some positive scores there. So the more psychology courses taken, the more students accurately recognize the statement. People can be traumatized by any of it being false. So that kind of shows that engaging in some educational sources can help recognize those myths. And then the more film and TV media consumed that depicted mental health issues, the more students accurately recognize the statement. Children are incapable of developing PTSD to be false. This rejected our initial hypothesis. We thought it would be the opposite. And then the more social media consumed that depicted mental health issues, the more likely the statement PTSD eventually goes away on its own was accurately recognized to be false as well. Students who spent more time watching film and TV compared to other peers accurately identified the statement PTSD flashbacks are easily triggered as false. And then the more social media consumed compared to other peers, the more accurately students identified the statement people with PTSD tend to exaggerate symptoms to be false. So overall, these correlations pretty much rejected our initial prediction that students who consumed more media would not accurately report PTSD myths, but they ended up accurately reporting the myths to be false. And then again, our ANOVA results didn't really show much difference in means between students' total mean scores and their level of education, average time spent watching film or social media, and their experience and diagnosis of PTSD. So like I said before, those independent t-tests revealed that scores for the statement, once a person develops PTSD, they have it for the rest of their lives, between those that had been formally diagnosed and not been formally diagnosed with PTSD. Students that had not been formally diagnosed with PTSD were actually more likely to accurately recognize the statement to be false. In this case, we thought it would be the opposite as well. So that proves contrary to our initial prediction as well. So again, little significance was found on students misunderstanding or understanding PTSD, but in some cases, media consumption actually increased students' ability to recognize specific false ideas about PTSD, and as well as for those that actually didn't have a formal diagnosis of PTSD. So I will say a significant limitation to this study was a lack of larger participation, as we only did have 77 participants. So I think if we had a larger sample, results may have altered a little bit there. But I think in the future, it may be beneficial to study specific media that depicts PTSD, or how psychology courses influence PTSD myth recognition. But with that, that is the end of our presentation. I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, thank you for watching.